Hey Dungeon Crawlers, this is Dorks at Disadvantage, a D&D podcast by Dorks for Dorks, where we show you don't have to have a big group to have a great time playing D&D. And now, here's your hosts, Jennifer and Austin Caldwell. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dorks at Disadvantage podcast. My name is Austin.
My name is Jennifer. Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. And today we're kind of going to do something a little bit different. This is going to be a special episode, our Gen Con 2026 episode. We just got back from Gen Con, and we wanted to make an episode just to talk about our experience there, all the things we saw, all the things we bought, all the things we wish we could buy.
Everything.
And just the whole experience. So... Everything. So, well, I'll just kind of hop in and talk about the trip a little bit itself. So we drove into Indianapolis the Wednesday night before, the 29th. I guess technically Gen Con was already going on, but it was mostly seminars and webinars and sort of game creator talks that were going on at that time. We unfortunately did not order our tickets before the the send to your house option cut off. Mm-hmm. And so we had to use the will call option, and we did stand in line. However, I will say this, it was a fantastic experience getting through that line. The line was backed up all the way through the bottom floor of the convention center, and somehow we got through the whole thing, I think, in 40 minutes or less.
I would say argue 25. Like, we got to the stand in like 25 minutes. I feel like it. It was so incredibly fast. I was expecting hours, and the thing is that people are standing in line pretty much the entire time. But it went by so quickly, and I loved that. I can't remember what time we went. It was late at night. It was Wednesday night.
Yeah, that would have been Wednesday night. Yeah, the 29th. It was
Wednesday night that we stood in line, and it was very late, so the line went through really quickly. I would say that if you're going to have to stay in line, do it the night before or first thing in the morning, early in the morning, and that's the best time to go.
Right, and I would just add that early does mean like 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's what early is, because what we noticed, and this was true for all 4 days of Gen Con, is that 6 a.m., a little bit earlier than most people want to get out. It's usually pretty thin, so you can go in there and kind of go wherever you want to without much issue. However, the closer you start to get towards about 9 a.m., that's when you start to really see the crowd start to come in. And then, of course, by 10, 11 a.m., it's full on. Everybody is out and about trying to get to a session or trying to stand in line to get a game or some cards. So, early bird gets the worm as far as getting to your spot where you want to be, whether that be the will call line or if you want to try to figure out where your session is early. And that will also bring me to my next point, too. Gen Con does not only take place at the convention. If you've never been before, it also takes place at the hotels connected to the convention. And some hotels that you really can't say aren't connected to the convention.
We will have more of that in just a minute.
Right, yeah.
We had our own experience, and I'm sure everyone that has been there has had their own experience. They are happy to share. But I will say this first and foremost. I am neurodivergent, and I would argue that most of the people at Gen Con are, to some degree, are on the spectrum somewhere around there. Yep. And that map is not good for us.
Yeah, the maps, some of them can be a little bit ridiculous, and there was a real lack of signage getting to certain spots. So JW,
both on the hospital and on the app.
The hospital? You mean the convention center?
Yeah, both on the both at the convention center. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it felt like a hospital at times because it was crowded, busy, confusing, and hospitals can be that too. But no, yeah, if you're going to JW Marriott, that is the hotel that I found it was easiest to navigate to because you had big signs kind of pointing you to how to get there.
There was actual name on it that said Marriott.
Right, it had the arrow pointing in that direction, and it was very easy to find. However, if you were going to the Crown Hotel or the Union Station, the Crown Plaza Hotel or Union Station
good luck
Hotel,
to you.
Yeah, 100% good luck. Crown Plaza was very difficult to navigate to. I barely found my session. I started looking for my session about an hour and a half before it started. I finally found it about 20 minutes before it started. So, and that was after getting incorrect directions from two different people at a desk.
Yes.
So,
don't think that we didn't try asking for directions. I am originally from Indiana's Indianapolis Speedway area, and I now understand where I got my sense of direction from. I think this is something that a lot of people just don't know how to describe things, and it really bothered me that I just couldn't find anything. But one thing I also want to mention as far as getting to your places on time, one thing I want to add, if you are there to buy a special package, some sort of deal that they are doing special for that event, make sure that you are there at sunrise. We're talking about 4 a.m, because people are already in line. And that was a mistake I made. I was going to get a game set for a friend. And, I was good with standing in line and waiting for it. But with the events that we had already purchased, I had no idea these lines were going to be that long of a wait. I got there really early. I think 8 o'clock was when I arrived. And the Lorcana line, it did not open until 10. And I ended up rushing, and I couldn't stand in line. I had to wait and pop out, so that didn't work out for me, and I feel bad for it. But I've learned a lot from this whole thing. So if you're doing that, arrive early.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to me to sacrifice an entire day at Gen Con? Because these folks were standing in line for this Lorcana deal 6-8 hours that they were waiting. And I'm sure some of them stayed in line and then were finally told that we sold out, that they sold out.
Some people it is important, and I totally get it.
It's up to you. Like I say, you have to decide that, and I'm not saying one thing is more important than the other. Me personally, there was nothing there that I would have waited in line like that for, because to me it's all about the gaming. And then, but that's the beauty of Gen Con. You have folks where it's all about the playing the games. You have folks where it's all about trying new games. Some folks, it's all about buying new games and buying expansion packs that are exclusive to Gen Con that you can only get there. So it caters to all sorts of different folks. But if you are going to be one of the folks that stand in line, we're talking Black Friday. Back when Black Friday was Black Friday, and it was crazy.
Yep.
We're talking about you need to be there at 4 a.m. at the convention, ready to stand in that line. And you will wait from 4 a.m. to minimum like 10 a.m. in the morning till they start actually selling that. So you need to be prepared to sit there for about 6 hours.
I would argue 12. Because, I say 4, but, that line probably is still going to be there. You're not going to be in the front of the line, and they only let so many people in to the space. So we're talking about at least from 4 to 12 o'clock, you're going to be in that line.
Gotcha.
At least for the Lorcana one.
Yeah, and to be fair, too, there was some sort of a big special exclusive Lorcana thing that I think you could only get there. It was like an anniversary pack.
Yeah, there was a lot of places that was doing something like that.
Yeah, so that's something we learned about that. So a couple things we learned so far. Try to have your tickets mailed to you. The next thing is to, get there at 4 a.m. if you're going to have to stand in line for something.
Buy your parking space.
Oh, that's our next point. So, parking spaces, we would recommend, looking back on it, that you buy a parking space about a year in advance. There's a couple of different companies I think you can go through to buy your downtown parking pass for all of those days for Gen Con. I think it's around $130-ish, if I remember correctly, to buy it for all 4 days. But the alternatives are going to be hoping you can maybe find a parking spot over at somewhere like the university and then walk about a mile from the university to the convention center, which I understand was pretty full as well. Or you're going to have to Uber. And the Ubering gets expensive. We wound up having to do the Uber. But now there's a strong argument for the Uber too that I'm going to get to. If you want to buy that parking pass for $130 and be able to park downtown, you can do that and you can save a little money. But also know this, at least this year, Indianapolis was going through some severe construction.
Yeah, it was just this year.
Yeah. And there were 2 main thoroughfares going into downtown that were closed off. So you only had a couple of different ways, then this is from me talking to the Uber driver, into the downtown, into the city at that time toward the convention center. Both of those were jam-packed. The traffic was completely nuts. People cutting, each other off and near misses, left and right. I was happy to hand all of that responsibility off to Uber. And I did tip well for it because I did not want to be part of that. So I did spend probably a small fortune on Uber.
But we really appreciate those people for doing that, because I definitely couldn't do that. That's a terrible experience for anyone to have to drive through that. But it's the city, and we spoke to a couple of people, and they seemed to be upset about the road construction more on for aesthetic reasons.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking it's okay. I mean, the city needs to be continually fixed, and it's good. It's good that they are fixing it. So next year it's going to be clear. It did make it made it more confusing for me as far as getting lost, and I'll also be talking about that. But let's talk about what we did right, which is good, comfy shoes and a backpack full of food.
Absolutely. So I wore the comfiest pair of shoes that I had. We had a few different water bottles, and thankfully we found that the JW Marriott Hotel had all of these big water jugs out, with the little water spouts, and you could get your own cool water. So they made water freely available. That was something that I very much appreciated about Gen Con, because we have been to, this is our first convention, but we've been to festivals and things where they do not make water available to you. And they want you to spend the $7.50 for a 16-ounce bottle of water. I was afraid that was going to be the case here, but I was very excited to see that was not the case. I was very happy to see that they're keeping people hydrated, because that's important.
I was also very happy to see that food was allowed,
Yeah.
I was prepared to sneak it in any way I could if that was what it took. But, they didn't care. They didn't care where the food came from, where your drinks came from. You can bring that in, and I was so happy for that, because, when you're a gamer, especially for role-playing games like D&D, you need your snacks.
Yes.
We are snackers, okay?
You're talking about 6-8 hour sessions sitting there playing. You're going to need some almonds. You're going to need some jerky.
Yes.
You're going to need something to snack on. So
nuts and jerky. That was our plan, and we actually had more than enough, which was great. And I expected us to eat a lot more than what we did. But I'm glad we were prepared.
I felt pretty satisfied on the nuts and the jerky. Of course, I've been doing the keto, and that just protein fills me up, makes me feel full now. So that really worked out. Also, too, I think, the walking around, you have to do all of that walking, and it's not something you feel like you want to do on a full stomach, at least for me personally. I probably, even if I wanted to, probably couldn't eat anything heavier than, say, maybe a hot dog at most, and then that's pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's going to bloat you
And so,
pretty good.
Even if I wanted to try to have a meal, I did see people like eating the pizza, eating the cinnamon bun, the big, huge cinnamon buns and stuff, and I'm like, that's cool. They looked good and they smelled good, but it was like, I can't imagine doing that and walking the 8 miles, or whatever it is across the whole convention and around the convention. So
I'm going to disagree on the smell part. The Cinnabon, of course, always smells good.
The Cinnabon smell good
but
anyway.
That pizza, I'm sure it must have tasted good, but I'm going to say, honestly, it smelled like armpit. It smelled like really intense BO.
Yeah, to be fair, the whatever pizza they were selling or pizza roll or whatever it was, it had a strong onion smell, but it was like a dehydrated onion smell, like crystals. So it kind of did have that BO type smell to it. And you've got that coupled with actual BO, which I'll also get to. But you smell that, and it was a little bit nauseating at times. So.
I didn't smell anybody. I don't have that sensitive of a nose,
Oh,
but
man,
that
I sure
pizza
did.
was definitely strong. So Austin's nose is very sensitive.
True.
I have found over the years, and I'm feeling very blessed to not have that.
I mean, folks, it's just go back to the simple, high school method of making sure that you don't stink when you go to one of these things. Deodorant under the arms, I'm a big dude, so, no judgment, but deodorant under any other areas where you think might, get some BO going. Maybe a good spritz of cologne, and then you're good to go for the day. And carry your deodorant with you. I smelled some folks there that there's no excuse for it.
Come on.
I'm sorry, but we're all adults. I know it gets sweaty in there, but you're already carrying this big backpack that you've loaded down, with goods. Just slide one of those mini travel deodorants. You know what I'm talking about? Like a little tiny 1.5 inch tall in there, and you'll be good to go. It's not as bad as Bonnaroo.
Of course, it's not as bad as Bonnaroo.
That's a story for a different day. But anyway, there were some smells that mixed around at some points that was a little bit nauseating. So if that's something you're sensitive to, like me, I'm weird. I can smell something for 6 miles away.
Yeah, it didn't bother me at all. The pizza was the only thing that really just made my head spin. I was like, oh, wow, that is very strong.
But, that's food and drink at Gen Con. I just recommend having a big fanny pack full of your snacks. And then for me, it was after I was done walking for the day, after I was done doing sessions, that's when I wanted to relax for a minute and then have a good meal. Mm-hmm. And if you do want a good meal, I'm going to have to recommend the St. Elmo's Steakhouse.
If you can afford it, it's really pricey.
It's a little pricey.
It's really pricey.
We only ate there once, and we met up with a friend, and he was very kind, and he comped us our meal there. So, it's not something we would do every day. It's definitely a special occasion type thing. But if you're out there and you've got the money for it, if you're okay with dropping, about $100 for a couple people to eat, then I think it's a great place to go.
But why don't you go ahead and, Austin, tell our viewers why exactly you love this place so much?
Okay, so I love spicy food. I really love spicy food to a probably unhealthy and unsafe degree.
Correct.
If we're being honest.
As his wife, I can confirm this.
But we were riding with one of our Uber drivers, and he's like, do you like spicy? And I'm like, I live for spicy. And he's like, you need to check out St. Elmo's Steakhouse and get the shrimp cocktail. They make their cocktail sauce in-house, and it's spicy. It's pretty spicy. And he's like, it'll kind of take your breath, I've had cocktail sauce before, and I know what he means, where it kind of just, you feel it in your nose a little bit, up your nostrils and everything. Mm-hmm. So I thought I was kind of prepared. Mm-hmm. So we go into St. Elmo's, and it's very fancy, by the way. I will say this. I felt very underdressed in my Fat Man shorts and my T-shirt that I had been walking around at Gen Con in.
Yeah.
You walk in, and the male waiters are wearing like a tuxedo, and the lady waiters are dressed up in a nice like lady's blazer and like a bow tie or tie. And I felt very underdressed. But we go in, and we all get this shrimp cocktail, and we talked our friend into getting it as well. And they bring this sucker out, and I'm not kidding you when I say that I saw some pieces of horseradish in this homemade cocktail sauce the size of my pinky nail. I've never seen pieces of horseradish this big in my life.
Now, let me say my side of the story, or mine and our friend Casey's perspective on this. You know, it is a very nice restaurant. We're like, oh, this is super fancy. And we're sitting down, and we hear Austin talking about this guy recommending it. And so, at first I was like, I don't think I want that. But then I was like, you know what? It sounds good. I want to try it. So we both decided to get it because it just sounded good. And let me tell you, I always, when it comes to spicy food, I always look to my husband to see how he reacts to it, because I can always tell how hot it's going to be.
Yep.
And I was so busy catching up with Casey that I did not really do this to the length I usually do. So I pan over, he's just nodding his head, and he's like, wow, that's really spicy. And then we decided to take a bite. Both of us at the same time felt it burn up our nose. Like, we're talking about if you took a shot of vodka and it went in your nose. And our heads went back, and we both went, oh! And we're just sitting there just spinning. Our heads are burning, and he's just like, yeah, it is kind of hot.
It was very hot. And Jen's was actually, I think, the hottest. Because I looked at Casey's, and I could see some, fairly good chunks of horseradish. Mine had some pretty good, probably bigger than his, maybe some in there. But I look over at Jen's, and that's where I saw the pieces of horseradish that were like the size of a pinky nail in that thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to catch up and talk. I can't talk. I take a couple of bites of this shrimp cocktail, and I'm having a hard time getting words out and responding. So this stuff was very, very hot, but it was very delicious.
That's the thing. It had a great taste to it. Mm-hmm. It really did. But I was shaking it off. I was trying to have as little as possible on it. And second bite in, I finally I clapped my hands together and said, I'm out. I'm done.
And I very foolishly ate the last two pieces of her shrimp in that cocktail sauce. And even with me trying to brush most of it off, shrimp is curved. It's curved into a C. So some of that horseradish will hide in that crevice right there in the C. And took a bite of those and just really almost died. But I would do it again. Would recommend.
Of course you're going to.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
I loved the shrimp. They were huge pieces. I mean, my goodness.
Some of the best shrimp I've had in a long time, probably since we visited the coast, was the last time I had shrimp that good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the taste was so great, but I realized that that's definitely not for me and for most people that like living.
I will say this too, and I was talking to a lady at Gen Con that I sat next to on a bench, and we were talking about spicy food because she loves it as well. She said she was local, so she said every time I get sick, I like to get that shrimp cocktail from St. Elmo's, and she's like, it just really goes up into the nasal passages and helps to open you up. So it's got medicinal properties, folks. It's not only tasty, it's good for you.
That's the thing. I mean, I have allergies. I get sinus pressure in the front of my head, underneath my eyes. So when that happened, my sinuses were clear. Mm-hmm. I was doing good after that. So it does have its medicinal props.
But beyond the shrimp cocktail, the steak was really great. It was a amazingly cooked steak. I asked for it medium rare. It came out what I would call a perfect medium rare. And it's just good food. It's good food, and I know that it is expensive, which you covered, Jen. But however, I will tell you this. it's a lot less expensive than a lot of the steakhouses in the area.
This is true.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about this is downtown Indianapolis, so you are going to see some very high prices for fine dining, eating, and this was a definitely a proper price. I would argue it is.
I felt like everything was fair, and when you compare it to places like Dean's Steakhouse, and I'm not going to poop on Dean's Steakhouse because I've never tried it, and I'm sure it's
Absolutely not.
fantastic. I'm sure it's really good, but you are looking at $100 a steak at Dean's.
Yeah.
Compared to St. Elmo's, and St. Elmo's pretty darn good steak. Is Dean's better? I don't know. Is it $50 better? I don't know. I'd have to try them both, and make a decision, and that's a decision for someone to make if they want to. But
It's a decision for another day.
it's a decision for another day. But I'm just saying, for folks who want a great steak and want to try that shrimp cocktail, and you want to do it for around about $100 for two people to eat, then I think it's a great choice. I think it was a great choice, a great restaurant. I also have to recommend, and I know I'm kind of jumping everywhere, but since we're talking food, we stayed at the Renaissance Hotel, the Renaissance North Indianapolis Hotel in Carmel, Indiana. That was a great place to stay. It was a really nice room, very nice hotel. But in the hotel, there's the restaurant, the Grill 39, I believe it was called, if I get it right. The first night we came in, we were starved after that drive, and we were like, we need something to eat. I have had terrible experiences in hotel restaurants and have paid a high price for that, both monetarily and digestively. But we decided we would gamble and go ahead and try the Grill 39. Fantastic food in there. We only ate there one time. It was a little bit on the pricey side. It was around about $40, I think, a person for what we did get.
Yeah, it was still expensive. However,
yeah,
that salmon was so good.
We both got the salmon, and it was probably the most perfectly cooked salmon I think I've had at a restaurant. Jen can make some salmon that's right. This was right on par with Jen's salmon. Jen is a salmon master now. So it was right on par with her salmon, and it was delicious. They have the Brussels sprouts there, and they burn them, which is how I love them.
Yes.
So if you like Brussels sprouts and you like them burned, they will take good care of you there. It was really good food.
Yeah.
So.
The salmon was cooked well done, which is how I prefer it. I don't like it a little pink. So that is one thing, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I would go back to that. The prices is high. I mean, there's no going around it. But we were on vacation. This was for us, definitely something we haven't done. I mean, we haven't been on a vacation in since the cruise.
Yeah, for the two of us, like just going on vacation and not like going somewhere to visit someone. Yeah.
So 2019.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long time, like 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a very long time. This was our first big vacation in a while, and we briefly mentioned that we had dinner with our friend Casey, and I just want to take a minute to talk about this. So our friend Casey, I went to school with Casey, elementary school and high school. I think he was a year ahead of me, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly, but went to elementary school and high school. And when Jen moved down in high school, she met Casey too as well. We were all part of the same circle of friends. And when we moved away, he moved away as well. We didn't see each other for quite some time. We ran into him in the eastern part of the state at a McKay's bookstore.
About 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago, he was working there, and we got to chat it up with him just a little bit, like 30 seconds, but that store was so busy, and he was working there.
Yeah, we weren't going to be able to chat with him, so it was just oh, wow, I hadn't seen you in so long, and it was crazy we were seeing him then, because it had been 10 years prior to that.
Absolutely. It was crazy, but we got to talk just a little bit. Second day of Gen Con, we're walking across the skyway of the JW Marriott, and I've got my head down. I'm not feeling the greatest because I'm not used to doing all of that walking, and I get a little case of the keto flu here and there as I'm going through this stuff. But I'm looking down, but then I hear Jen say, "Casey?" And he comes over and he's like, "Oh my God." And we look over and I look up and there he is. And we ran into each other after all those years at Gen Con out of like the 79,000 other people that's there or whatever.
Right.
We run into each other, and that was just so crazy. And we figured that was definitely fate. So we chatted it up for a while. He was busy that day. I also want to talk about his accomplishments. He is a game engineer for the Cyberpunk, the trading card game.
Yes.
Yes. I hope I said that all correctly, but I believe I did.
Yes,
And
you did.
he helped to design that game, and he helped to launch that Kickstarter, which I think did like 28 million bucks, something like that.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy for him.
Man, just awesome to hear that story. And so, yeah, we ran into him, wound up doing dinner with him the next day, and it was really great. So
Yeah, we decided that we would try to hang out more often and actually have, just hang out and catch up. Like it's so crazy because we're talking about 70,000 people and it's a huge place, and we just happen to walk in, cross each other, and I'm looking and I see him and I'm like, that's him, because he hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
He looks exactly the same, which 20 years, and it's crazy.
I know. I wish I could age that well.
Me too.
He doesn't look like he's aged a day since high
And
school.
I know I didn't, because he looked at me and he was like processing. He's just like, I know her. And he looked at Austin, which honestly, you hadn't changed either.
I've got some salt and pepper going on at
And
this point.
his hands like flew to his head and he's like, oh my gosh. But that was so amazing. That made the experience just so great for us personally.
That was a fun day. It was a very fun day after that. And it just goes to show you never know who you're going to run into at Gen Con. It's such a big convention. You never know who you're going to see. But that was excellent. And, good to see him and good to have good food with him. And also, check out the Cyberpunk trading card game.
Absolutely. I am really excited to get our card set.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to order that and try to figure out how to learn it. We didn't get to stop by the booth and actually learn because we were so busy doing everything else. And that's another point, too. You won't be able to do everything at Gen Con. No matter how hard you try, you will not be able to do everything that you want to do.
Yeah, that's definitely what we need to work or talk about next. So the thing is that for us, we paid for 4 D&D games to play.
Yes.
And our plan was to play these 4 and the rest of the time have an experience with the shops, learn to play a couple of games in the process, and we practically weren't able to do most of those things. We did a little bit of shopping, like I'm talking about passing by as we're going to the things we needed to go to, and I personally got to try to play one game, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember what it was called, but it was interesting. It was one that had miniatures, which was, of course, what made me draw into it. That's what made me excited. But yeah, it was really a lot, and you would think that, you would have plenty of time, but you just don't. So one thing I would say is that I would recommend no more than 3 or 4 games. Purchase 3 or 4 and then try to, if you can, walk around and do your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There was so much more that I did want to do that I didn't get to. Next year, I think I'm going to mix it up a little bit more. I've kind of learned my lesson on that. Because, D&D sessions at Gen Con, they range in duration from like 2 hours up to 6 hours. And pretty much every one that I had booked was like a 6-hour session because I was like, well, the 2-hour one-shots, I don't know. You can have fun doing those, but I feel like I'm just getting invested in the character at the end of those 2 hours. Like I'm just starting to get rolling, and then it's over.
Every
So
time.
that's why I wanted to do the longer ones. But next time I'll leave some room open. Even though we were kind of busy doing those sessions, though, I did get to squeeze in a Shadow Dark game, and I will talk about that just a little bit. So Shadow Dark, if you want to play D&D, but you're kind of overwhelmed, I think, personally, I would recommend starting with Shadow Dark, because Shadow Dark is kind of a stripped down version. It's a little more hardcore on some of the rules, where D&D, a lot of dungeon masters are pretty loose on, hey, you can shoot as many arrows as you want, you can throw your dagger and still have a dagger, you can light your torch and it'll just stay lit until you tell me you don't light it or whatever, or you want to put it out. Shadow Dark, if you light a torch, you have 1 hour of real time. They set a stopwatch for you, and when that stopwatch is out, your torch is out. When your torch is out, the creepy crawlies come out, and the creepy crawlies all have advantage in the dark.
Interesting.
You have disadvantage in the dark every time.
Yeah, I didn't get to play this game, so I'm hearing for the first time really what this game is about. So that is interesting.
Right. Yeah, we didn't get to talk about that too much, but yeah, that's part of it. So that's one of the differences. Another one of the differences is you don't really have any bonus actions or anything like that. You can move and you can strike, or you can move and you can pick something up, or you can try to find a trapdoor. You have basically a movement and an action. Once you take those, you're done. Which I kind of like in a lot of ways. And your wizards and your warlocks, it looks like you only have like a handful of spells, depending on your level. At least the warlock I played, I didn't even have any spells with warlock. I just had some boons to some of my stats. Okay. And I think the lady next to me who played a wizard, she had just a few wizard spells. She was like a level 3, I think. Maybe you get more as you go. But when you do that spell, you have to roll to see if you're successful for it. And I could be getting some of this wrong, but she had to roll to see if she was successful for it. And if she did like a critical failure on that spell, I'm pretty sure that spell was burned up. Like that was it. You can't cast that spell anymore, like that day or something, until you get like a long rest. And then that spell gets restored.
Gotcha.
After that.
That makes sense.
Also, if you fail that spell and you like critically fail that spell, then a mishap can happen to you. And the DM, he rolled to see what that mishap was going to be, and at one point she actually cast the spell on herself. She failed the roll, and the mishap was it backfired on her. So there's all kinds of little fun things like that can happen with Shadow Dark. It's definitely deadly. We had 2 players go down while we were fighting.
I remember you telling me about that.
So, yeah, we had 2 players go down. Our wizard did a good job of stabilizing them. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think if it's one of those things where you want to play a more peeled back D&D experience, and also a little bit tougher in some ways, then I think Shadow Dark is a good game to look into. And the basic rules are free on Drive-Thru RPG. So just look up the Shadow Dark basic rules. I think it comes with some pre-made characters, and then you'll be off to the races.
Yeah, the thing that I really like the concept of is you can do a move and an action, and that's it. Mm-hmm. The thing about D&D that really confuses me, so I've been playing this a couple years, and I'm still having a hard time knowing what's the difference between an action and a bonus action, and being able to get in my brain to read which one is which and what I can do when, because you have the action, and the bonus action is something that you can do, possibly. It depends what you have done before that. And so I get very confused. I'm like, okay, so can I do something else? And I have to continually keep asking if it's okay.
Yeah, and another thing too that I think makes it easier as well is movement. So in D&D, when you move away from an enemy, that enemy can get attack of opportunity on you. The game master was telling me, "Hey, there's no attacks of opportunity here. If you want to move away from that guy and you've got the movement to do it, you can do it, and there's no consequences. If you have two friends blocking your way, you can move through those allies."
Yeah.
You don't have to sit there and wait. You can move through allies, but you can't move through enemies. At least that's the way he was playing it. And I really liked that.
Yeah.
I liked that.
I would prefer that too. I feel like when it comes to moving from when you're close range to an enemy, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be an attack of opportunity, because it can be beneficial, especially if they are moving. But I feel like there should be less of a chance of that happening. I don't know, because it gives me anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, okay, I can't move at all. Don't move, because if I move, I'm going to get hit, and I'm already really worried about how many hits I have left.
Right. I mean, and you can always disengage as an action, but then that burns your action.
Yeah.
Or unless you've got a rogue or another character that's got, the cunning action or whatever it is, where you can step away, disengage as a bonus action. So I feel like the rules of combat are a little bit simpler in Shadow Dark.
Mm-hmm.
In a very good way. But I had a great time. That was a very chill session. That was the last session of the week that I did on Sunday morning, and that was very cool. But the other sessions that we did, we had a very short one-shot that was really cool, the Slumbering Titan, where there was a Titan we were trying to wake up to help us fight a Baylor.
I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was fun.
So there was at the sci-fi convention that we went to, we talked about it a little bit in one of the episodes. There was this DM that we played with that was so similar to this guy. I could have swore that it was him a few times, because it was exactly the same. He talked the same. He had the same, fluctuations and playing style. So every time I was like, is this the guy? It's not him. It doesn't look like him, but it seems like him. But I enjoyed that game a lot. I liked the concept. I liked it being a one shot. I liked it was just really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very fun game. But man, folks, I just got to go ahead and jump into talking about Wizard Tank. We did a Wizard Tank campaign. A Wizard Tank is the DM's kind of brand.
Okay.
That was his brand name.
Okay, yeah. Let's back up for a second. Okay. So when we looked at games, we were going for cheap, because we were already putting in a lot of money that I was like, okay, this is getting pricey.
It's pricey, yeah.
And I was having a little anxiety, so I'm like, okay, well, let's get some cheap games going. So you can pay a lot for a D&D session or any game session that you go into. And of course, prices are based on skill level of the dungeon master. It also is how long the game is and things like that. So what we did is we bought 3 really cheap ones, and there was this particular one by this guy, and it was $66.
I believe that's right.
Yeah,
yes.
that was pretty pricey for us, but they definitely get a lot more expensive than that, just to be clear. But that was the one that we were like, okay, we really were intrigued by the story. So I was like, let's just do one expensive one, at least for our perspective. I'm like, yeah, that's high, but I am very curious of how this is going to go. And did not disappoint. I would argue that it should have costed more, because it was so good.
Oh man, folks, if you're fairly new to DMing, and I mean, this may not apply to everybody, but if you're new to DMing, or maybe you're not new to DMing, and you still want to be humbled and shown what real DMing is, then playing a Wizard Tank game will do that for you. This was basically a master class in how to DM a Dungeons and Dragons game. The dude was fantastic. Like, pauses in all the exact right places for role play. Making sure each character had a chance to tell their story. Putting the onus on the player to build that character's story in certain situations. For instance, we were each having these dreams, and we had to explain these dreams in detail. And he didn't give us any, very many guidelines on that. It was very, very broad. He's like, hey, you're all dreaming about this same person. You're not sure why you are. Go. He's like, take 5 minutes and then go. And so we had to come up with these dreams, but each and every person, I felt like I was kind of floundering a little bit trying to come up with a dream for my character. But, as soon as I finished telling the dream, he was able to follow up on that, like, just seamlessly, like, and weave that into the tale. And that was fantastic. And the combat encounters were epic. Every single combat encounter felt epic. There was none of them, even though they were quite long, they never felt like a slog. It never felt like it was just barely moving or, anything like that. It was fantastic encounters, interesting enemies, perfect role play for the NPCs. Man, the story was so deep, and the NPCs were so layered. God, it was amazing.
It was beautiful.
It was a beautiful story, yes.
To be fair, we've only been playing this a couple of years, but this was, for me, this was the best game I've experienced yet. And the reason for that is, for me personally, I am all about storytelling. And the thing that he did that I thought was so significant was making sure that every person told their story, and we all had opportunity to create it and mold it to what we wanted to do as we went along. And that was so well done. And he was also, I could tell that he has some experience in not just writing stories, but he understood psychology to some degree on how people react and how people do things in life. And he was very attuned to each person. So this is a real skill, and it is very complex. And I was able to follow him along. And so there were times where I was having extreme empath moments where I'm like, I know where he's going with this, and hopefully he's going to catch the things that I'm trying to portray in my character. And he was just picking up everything that I was trying to do, and that was so cool. That was so amazing.
It was fantastic, and the way that he helped us to develop the characters, like he had sent out a message pretty much right after we signed up for this thing that said, hey, I'm going to have pre-mades, but please create your own character. Well, I'm a procrastinator, and we were pretty busy getting ready to go to Gen Con and everything. And long story short, yeah, it has. It's been an interesting month. But long story short, I created my character in the hotel late at night, the night before the session even started. And I was just like, oh my God, I guess this is good enough. I tried. And then I get there and I realize that this character developed so much in this one campaign that now he's already, I think, one of my favorite characters. And I'm going to be bringing him into other campaigns that we are doing. Like, he developed that much in just that short period of time for me. So just that ability to help the players further develop their characters, it's just a skill. It's a skill that you have to learn through just like countless, I think, hours of storyboarding and writing and all of that. So it was amazing. It really helped to show me as well where I want to go with DMing and things that I need to work on. Like I say, it was like a master class. But by the end, we were all applauding. It was like, I don't know. It was like
Yeah.
watching a feature film. I don't know if that sounds cliched or not, but like that's what it was like. It was like watching a excellent film just transpire before you.
Yeah.
Jen played Hugh Dankwood, and I'll let you talk more about the story if you want to go into detail, or we can just broadly brush over it. But it was the most developed that I've seen Hugh. Like it was a completely different side of Hugh. It really delved into the raw, emotion of who Hugh is. The raw, oh man, just the soul of the character.
Yes. The thing about Hugh is she's chaotic,
Yeah.
but she's good.
Yes.
And her character, like, I read a lot of psychology and how people develop, and the thing about this game was that it had such a anime vibe for me, the way the characters were built, and he helped me mold my character to the point that this is there are going to be parts of this story that we did that are going to be canon, because I had a good idea. I already had a solid foundation for her, but it was simple. It was a basic story. She's a deep character, but it was a simple backstory. And I am definitely not going to give a lot away because I'm sure he's going to play this with other people, and I want.
That's a good point. That's why I asked. Yeah.
I want people to experience this.
Oh man,
because
yes.
he wrote this.
Yeah.
And it is beautiful. There's no other word for it. It is so stunning. And when I'm playing this character, I'm doing the goofy things, I'm doing the chaos, and then we get to the dream section. And of course, I'm bringing in Hugh's backstory for this first dream to make sure people knew in a very short 6-hour session that what Hugh was actually like, what her deep passions and how she ticks and are. And he was able to really understand that. But somewhere in the middle of the game, he's like, okay, you're actually going to have a different dream now, and you're going to tell me how this progresses. Well, I start panicking. I'm starting to hyperventilate because I basically told my whole story in this one little tiny dream. And I'm like, okay, shoot, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I was so flustered. And it wasn't until people started telling their own stories that I was like, okay, I think I have something. I have a little idea. And then he gets to me, and I was 50% of the way there, but I was telling it at the same time, which is not something I do because I have to really think about my words because of my spectrum. So I have to think of what I'm going to say before I can say it. And I was just spitballing, really, just trying to tell my story, but in a storytelling way. And oh my gosh, it felt amazing. I got chills. I was feeling emotional. And the very end of the story, I wish I could tell you what happened. I really do. Because it was so much. And I feel so connected with Hugh now, even more so than I have been. And it was an amazing experience.
It was, Jen wound up doing the best role play that I've ever seen her do with any character, and
thank you.
It was amazing. I did some okay role play just because he set me up for it. The DM set me up really well for it, and I really appreciated that because a lot of the games we played, I didn't really get to role play at all. So he set me up for some good role play, and like I say, it made me develop my character to a point where I want to keep him. But the role play that Jen was doing, it was just, I don't know, it felt inspired. I don't know where she was getting all of that from, but it was incredible. And then, her character Hugh playing off the NPC that the DM was playing. It was just amazing. Like Jen said, I wish we could go into detail and tell you more about it, but in case he wants to continue to play that game with someone else, which I'm sure he should. If he doesn't, I'm sure he will, but he should. Then we don't want to give that away. But just suffice it to say, worth every penny of the $66. If you see a wizard tank game, sign up for that sucker.
Adam, I believe, was his name.
Adam, yes. Yeah, it felt expensive. I know you're already paying so much for your Gen Con pass and hotel and parking situation and all of that stuff, but trust me, folks, when I say it, to me, it was worth every penny. This was hands down the best session we had. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that to say any of the other ones were bad. We had good sessions.
No, not at all.
This was just incredible. Mm-hmm. So I can't say enough nice things about it, and I'm super excited when we go back to try to get into another one of his games.
Like, I'm still stemming off of this whole thing, and I know it's because I've built Hugh Dankwood. I've had her for a year and a half, and I'm now have such a connection with her, and because of this game, and it's given me so much. It's so many ideas for her and how to make sure to, it's making me really think about how to deep dive into each one of my characters and make sure that they feel complete.
Absolutely. And I've been in kind of a rut with my characters because, you know, I have characters that I really like that kind of write themselves, and then I have other characters that it's not that I don't like them, but I have to work harder to write for. But this session inspired me from a character that I just did the night before in a hotel room to a character that I feel like now has the beginnings of a great story. So, yeah, just amazing how that can happen. Amazing how a good session can just inspire you to, you know, connect with your character in that way that, you know, just the ideas start flowing. So, very, very exciting stuff there.
I will say, though, that the reason that this was so amazing is because our stories very much started and then finished. In most one-shots, you're not going to complete a character's story. It's really hard to do that. And this is why it was a master session. This was so well done. And I can't wait for next year. I'm definitely playing another game with him. And
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
So stoked. That was amazing. But with that, I would like to move on to some of the goodies that we did get. We didn't buy very many goodies, but we got a few. Mm-hmm. And I want to kind of go through our goodie box. Unless you got something first you want to do?
Go ahead. There was one I wanted to talk about my experience with it was one of the negative things, but
okay. You know what? Go ahead and talk about that first, because I feel like that flows better just talking about the sessions and what to expect.
I would rather talk about what we purchased last. So
right.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to talk about one of the negative things that I went through, because I know other people are going to have this problem.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the Gen Con map is not great. It's very, very confusing, and I got lost at one point. So I was trying to meet up with Austin for a game, and directions were not clear, and so I was on the phone with him trying to figure out how to get to this place, and of course he got lost too, so I ended up getting really lost, and I did not handle it well. That was definitely me. I ended up having a panic attack, and it was not good.
Totally not your fault, though. I mean, this place was so bad to get to, I could not relay any directions on how I got there. That's how bad it was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was definitely struggling, and I had to take a break. I ended up being an hour late for the game. It was a 4-hour
you weren't that late, actually. You only wound up being about 20 some odd minutes. It's about close to a half hour,
really?
I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because see, the thing is, it didn't start until it was supposed to start at 10 a.m. And I think you walked in at like 10:30, 10:29, somewhere around in there, when you finally got there.
Oh my goodness.
So you got there way before I think you thought you did.
It felt like hours. It was.
It might have been 10:40 because there was a gentleman who was like, "Are we going to start this thing? It's 30 minutes in. I don't know if she's going to show." And finally,
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm sorry, guys. Okay, fine. Like, well, let's go ahead and go."
Yeah.
But it wasn't like 10 minutes after that you walked in.
Yeah.
So
My advice to you, to anyone listening, is that the day before your set, I'm sorry. Let me repeat myself. The best thing I would recommend is when you arrive early, find the places before you start trying to get to them. Get a game plan going, because we did that for a couple
yeah,
of games and it was relatively easy to find those. So we're like, okay, yeah, this is good. We're good. And this one we didn't do that, and that's where I messed up. And if this happens to you, what I would recommend is just to go ahead and say, okay, I'm not going to make it to this session. It's just too much. If it's going to panic you in any way, just call them and say, hey, not going to make it. And hopefully you could get your ticket back. I did get my ticket back on my last session of the weekend, which it was a last minute booking, but I got lost for that one as well. But I didn't panic for that. Definitely didn't panic.
well, we kind of expected you would at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
we both said, we're like, look, don't be surprised, if you get super lost, and you kind of agreed there too. So
Yeah, so I finally, when I got lost the second time, instead, I didn't panic, and I was just like, okay, this is normal. Clearly, people are getting lost at this thing, and this is not my fault. This is the app's fault. So I went and I filed a proper complaint, a formal complaint to the main desk, and of course, I'm like, I really appreciated their time taking this, and I wanted to just make it clear that none of it made sense to me. And so I was explaining this to a couple of them, and one of the guys is trying to explain it to me to make sure that I understood, and he's like, you had to walk through here. And I'm pointing out to him some spaces. I'm like, well, what about going through here or here? And he said, oh, those aren't doors. Those are windows. So this is when I was like, oh, why are we putting visual images of open spaces being windows, but we're not doing that for doors? Why have windows at all for a map? And that is why that's when I got upset, because I was telling them, okay, I just want to let you know I'm on the spectrum, and I tried to use Google Maps to help me with this, and it wasn't helpful. It did not flow the same way Google Maps did. So it was like looking at two different places, and I got upset that he was not listening. Unfortunately, he wasn't. The girl was. She said, no, I'm the exact same way, and I couldn't figure out this map. And, the guy was brushing it off, and he was trying to tell me that, well, the map is like this. And I said, I understand that. I do. I'm just telling you that I am one of those people that it's really hard for me to read things or comprehend things. And if I can't do it, there's going to be other people out there that can't, especially at Gen Con. Like
Right.
I said, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be confused.
yeah.
So my hope is that they will take that to heart, and they will do a different setup. They'll change the map, at least take the windows off of it. At the very least.
And yeah, you were kind of treated a little bit rudely in that situation, and that brings me to another point, and I want to cut this short because we're running low on time here, but this is a serious issue, folks. So this is something that I saw happen at Gen Con. It happened at two different gaming tables that we were a part of.
It was three
Different gaming tables.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was happening all over Gen Con, and I think it happens all over the world at gaming tables. But
it's hard to bring this subject up because this is kind of something that people can be very sensitive to. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and say it.
Yeah, so, go ahead. It's hard to describe, but go ahead.
It's hard to describe because it is something that it has to do with the difference between being a guy player and a girl player and how people interact with each other in this situation. So as a woman, I play D&D with a lot of people. I play with a lot of guys, and there is very much a difference between masculine and feminine players. And this is something that my husband doesn't experience because he's a guy. So he's not treated this way when it comes to a session. So this was really the first time that we were playing with strangers, a lot of strangers at different points. And he wasn't seeing this pattern of behavior that guys tend to do. So what happens is that if there is a situation where there is a woman playing with a lot of guys, we'll be playing the game, everybody's taking their turn and all of this. And what happens is when it's my turn, I will be saying something like, okay, I'd like to cast this spell over here. Everybody starts piping up and saying, oh, yeah, you probably want to hold on to that because we've got a lot of things that we got to do, and we're going to need for you to save that just in case. We probably should wait. Let's just wait, okay? Just wait. And this was at every game. The last one, not so much. I think I recall maybe one time it happening, but for the most part, everybody was super respectful, and the DM made sure that he didn't do that, which I appreciate. But most of the time, it is the actual players that do this. So I'm not trying to be trying to get on anyone's back on this. But if you are a guy that plays D&D or some role playing game, and you have people of different genders that you play with, just try to be mindful and just understand that the player gets to decide what they do with their time.
Right. It was something that needed to be addressed because I saw it, happening multiple times. And so, gentlemen or, masculine leaning folks out there, please, just when you get ready to play this game, just stop and think for a moment, is what I'm going to say sensitive to this person? Is what I'm going to say come off as, chauvinistic or, macho, overly macho or anything like that? Just kind of hang that macho complex up at the door, or that, that chauvinism, just hang that up at the door, man. Just take a step back and think, and two, it might not be something that you're doing on purpose.
They never are. See, yeah. That's the thing. Nobody's ever intentionally doing this. The thing is that, and this is something I had to explain to Austin here, is that this happens all the time. And I am used to it, but he wasn't. So near the end of the weekend, I ended up seeing a all women's D&D game, and he's like, I want you to play that because you kept on getting a lot of people trying to control how you were playing, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. So, but for me it didn't, because I am used to it. This happens so much. So it's just something that I think that it's good to just have an open conversation about it. I'm definitely not trying to make this a super aggressive conversation.
No, this is just this is just a talking point. This is
Yes.
just something we felt should be talked about because
Yeah.
we did see it happen.
Yeah, it would just be great if people remember that everybody gets their turn and it is their time to do that. And just be mindful. Like, I love playing with everybody. I loved playing with everybody that was there. It was just I know for my husband here, he was getting very irritated, and I know that I'm hoping that this is something that people can take to heart and just have fun, you know?
Yeah, and maybe for me too, I I'm used to speaking to women in my personal life, and I'm used to working with a lot of women in my professional life. And I guess maybe I've made it a point to be a little bit more emotionally intelligent when it comes to that kind of thing. Just a little bit more empathy,
Yeah.
to that, and just trying to be thoughtful and respectful. So maybe that's just something I've had a little bit more practice doing, but also, I think a lot of it too stems from you've got people who have been playing D&D for 40, 50 years. Some of them there were. And when you've got someone who's a beginner compared, you want to play for them. Your first impulse is, oh, no, that's not what I would do. That's not what to do or whatever. But
Yeah.
at the very least, just if you really feel like you should make a suggestion, then the way to frame it is, you could do that. But one thing that you might want to consider, just
Well, they were
putting
doing
out
that
there.
too. See,
Yeah.
that's the thing. They were being helpful. They were.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm a beginner and definitely sound like a beginner, but this definitely had nothing to do with me being a beginner, because when
Yeah.
I decided to do something, I stuck by it, and
Because I made mistakes too. Yeah.
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 Yeah, we've been playing exactly the same amount of time, and every time that you said I cast Fireball,
Yeah.
which is a powerful spell,
Or something similar. Yeah.
yeah, and I would say, okay, I cast my strongest spell every time. They were like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't. So, yeah, it's frustrating, but I understand that they were only trying to help me with the game. It's just I would like to extend a plea of just let the player do what they want to do.
Let the player play.
Yeah, if somebody is going to speak up, don't do it the entire time.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just something to be aware of, something that we wanted to bring up, and just a talking point. So, but I think it's gear time. It's time to talk about the things we bought, because
Yes.
we're running very low on time here. So real quick, we're going to talk about our gear. So, in no particular order, these are the things that we bought at Gen Con. The first thing I want to talk about is the Vaesen, Vaesen, Nordic horror role-playing starter set. This just caught our eye. The box art immediately caught our eye, and we wanted to give this a try. It was pretty cheap. It was $30 for this starter set. And this thing is a Nordic horror role-playing game. It is based in 18th century, I think, Norway. And in this kit, you get these cool D6s. There's like 12 of those. You get this little Codex Occultum book right here that's got all of your monsters that you're going to encounter in it.
The art is beautiful.
The
and
art is amazing.
I'm somebody that definitely, I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I definitely purchase things by their cover. But also, really, to be honest, I really love the horror games. I'm very excited to try this, and there were actually so many. The horror scene for board games is really booming right now, and there were so many that I saw. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just didn't realize there was so much. So we definitely are going back to get another one, but I'm excited to try this one.
Absolutely. It comes with your rules. It comes with your little campaign in here, your little story that you can go through. It's a D6-based system, and it is by Free League. So you can check them out at freeleaguepublishing.com. Looks very, very cool. We have not played it, but we will be playing that very soon. And who knows? If we like it enough, we may play it on the podcast. I don't know. This is a D&D podcast, but, who says you can't cheat every now and then?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's good to extend and branch out a little bit since we're doing a lot of one-shots.
For
why
sure.
not?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Next, we ran into our friend that we talked about from ICC-Con that we met in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, who's local to Murfreesboro. He's done some writing for, I think, Wizards of the Coast and some other publishers. Mr. J.P. Chaplow.
Yeah.
And we had a great conversation with him there at Gen Con. He and his team were running several little campaigns there. He is the author of the Osaka campaign, which is set in like feudal period Japan. He is the author of Akhmet, which is set in like ancient Egypt, and also the author of this book that we have picked up right here, Olympia, Twilight of the Gods, that is a Greek mythology setting here. And, oh my goodness, all sorts of cool things in here. If you ever wanted to make your playable character a Medusa, you can do that with this book. This art in here is really great. He gives a good rundown of everyone who kind of participated in the art in this book. It's very comprehensive, talking about all the way down to the size and like eye color, I think, of some of these characters that you might encounter in here. NPCs, PCs, all sorts of ideas that you can use to, play through here and build your own campaign. So J.P. Chaplow founded the First Ones Entertainment. So look up First Ones Entertainment. You'll be able to find these books, and he sells them at very reasonable prices. I think it was $30 right here for this Olympia Twilight of the Gods book.
Yeah.
We also picked up one of his novels, The Bloody Notebook, Olympia Chronicles, Book 1. So he is actually writing, he's written 2 out of 3-part series of books based on this Olympia setting. And so these characters that he came up with in this book, they're in this setting here, and I have yet to read through this novel, but it looks really good, and can't wait to get in there. So,
yeah, if you are a fan of Greek mythology, this is definitely something to get.
Yeah, absolutely a great writer, and was great running into him again. We did not get to do one of his games this time, but are hopefully going to be able to squeeze one in soon. And last but not least, the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game rulebook here.
That was a last-minute purchase.
It was a last-minute purchase all over the con. We saw these big signs that said, visit the Dungeon Crawl Classics booth and get the rulebook for $10. I had a very hard time finding it. I finally looked it up on goodmangames.com after talking to a lady that I was playing that Shadow Dark campaign with on Sunday, and I was like, okay, I'm going to run out there and try to get this book. So went up to the booth and was able to get the book for $10. Now I will say one thing you got to be prepared for at Gen Con, just real quick, upselling. People will try to upsell you when they advertise something at a certain price.
Of course.
They wanted to give me a starter set instead of the book. It was like $25 or something. I'm like, no, man, look, I'm tired. I'm done. Give me that $10 book. And they did. And it's a great looking book.
It's okay they upsell. Like, that's part of it.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying be prepared for it.
Yeah, of course.
And when you're tired, when you're on that last day and you're done, it's okay to say, hey, look, I'm done. I'm sorry, but I'm done. You're not going to get the upsell on me. Please sell it to me. And I understand, too, because there's no way they made much money on this book. This is a very nice book. But I haven't read all the way through this or even halfway through this. It's super thick. But the rundown of it is this is its own RPG system. This has a D20 system going on for it, like Dungeons and Dragons. One of the big differences here is your characters all start out at level 0. Not level 1, level 0. What does that mean? It means they're wearing a t-shirt and shorts. And they go into the dungeon. They have no skills.
Video game style, where your character is in nothing but a loincloth.
Right. You want to talk about squishy? Your characters are going to be squishy. You go into the dungeon, it's not a matter of if they're going to get killed, they will get killed. And so there is a pool of characters and a funnel, I believe it's called in the book, of characters that you create. And as your characters die, you keep pulling them down, keep pulling more characters down. Then when your squishy level 0 character survives their first dungeon, they actually hit level 1. And then they can choose their class. Then you can say, okay, I'm a cleric, or I'm a wizard, or I'm a fighter, or whatever. But you don't get a class until you get through that first dungeon. So only the strong survive. And I love the way the critical hit system works. You can crit hit, and instead of, just rolling 2 dice, maybe you get a critical hit, and then you roll on the crit table. And depending on what you get, you might get to roll like 4 D12s against whatever it is that you hit, depending on what your D100, hits for that crit table.
Oh, wow.
Advantage also works different. So if you're in battle and you're rolling at advantage, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be rolling 2 D20s. It means it may mean that you get to roll a D30 attack damage. So all kinds of little different crazy things in here. They have a very specific way that you roll new characters, and they want you to stick by that very strictly to be able to play the game. But from what I heard, it's fun, very fun. Talked to a lady who played it at Shadow Dark. She and her one-shot started out with 28 characters. Only 12 were left by the end of the campaign. The Dungeon Master, it was his job to try to kill them all, but they had a few that actually survived. So for $10, can't beat it. Mm-hmm. You're going to need some weird dice. But look that up. That's at Goodman Games.
Yeah, it's really exciting. This whole thing was so great. And, it's been a long time since we've done a vacation, but, as somebody who's super nerdy, I really haven't experienced anything like this. Like, I've done a couple of Renaissance things, tiny conventions, but nothing like this, and I cannot wait to go back. I'm definitely wanting to go back next year and hopefully take our son so he can experience this.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was definitely a nerd overload, and I was there for it. And
so much.
I did a lot better with the crowds than I thought I would. There was only a few times that I was getting stepped on that I kind of got a little ticked off. But other than that, things generally flowed pretty smoothly. Most people were respectful.
Most people
There were a couple that were not. I won't go into any details there, but anytime you've got 80,000 people in the same building, you're going to have some buttholes. Yeah. That's just kind of part of it.
Yeah, just know that if you're going to try to, I don't know, climb over me to get in front of me, I'm going to look at you in the eye and say, hey, I am in line.
Yep. And if you decide you're going to skip line in the will call line the night before the con, and get right in front of me and act like that, I never saw you, I will say something to you. Now, I will be very nice about it.
Yes. You got that Southern hospitality, so you will be polite.
I will nicely tell you to get to the back of the line, which is what I did. So you may run into things like that, but other than that, man, just what a great time, and can't talk about it enough. There's too much to fit into this episode that we've already ran over on. Like, I could do 3 or 4 different episodes on this, but
truly,
yeah, for sure. The takeaway, folks, loved Gen Con. Definitely recommend it. A lot of things there reasonably priced. A lot of great sessions that were reasonably priced, and even some of the ones that are more expensive, it might be outside your comfort zone. If the story sounds great, go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I absolutely agree. And the only thing that I want to also mention is that bring an umbrella just in case it storms, because it might rain inside the convention. And if you don't know, just Google 2026 Gen Con rain.
If you know, you know, man. Tornadoes at Gen Con. All right, folks. Well, we're going to sign it off there. It was great just to get together and talk about Gen Con and how excited we are. We could stem off of this stuff forever. But we look forward to speaking with you more in the next episode of the Dorks at Disadvantage podcast.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.